Hey, thanks, Daryl, man. It's great to run alongside you again. So this is great. Let's confirm. Can you see the slides? Are they up on the screen? You good on that? Okay. I want to start with a story. Let's go here. December of 2010. I'm in a car driving from Tallahassee, Florida, down to Southwest Florida to Naples, where my parents were. And I'm driving down there because things were going poorly. My dad is a lifetime entrepreneur, and he is a developer in Southwest Florida. And during that time, he and my brothers, they had this huge project that had just come to completion. And it was beautifully designed, open to accolades, the right location at the wrong time. Because in October 2010, the market just bottoms out. And this thing he had poured his life into, in his 70s now, I'm driving home and it's obvious there's going to be a financial catastrophe here because they can't support the debt. And so I go home to check on mom and dad. And I remember one day I'm standing on the patio and mom's already she's in the other room, and she is just so numb she can't even cry. I mean, they were so excited about this being sort of their golden years and this thing that they had worked so hard for being their gift and legacy to the kids and all, and it wasn't going to happen. So my mom's in the other room. I'm looking at my dad. I'm on the patio next to him, and I look at him and I'm thinking, I wonder where he's at in all this. Because it would be reasonable for anyone going through what he's going through to feel like the guy in the picture right here with just the weight of the world on your shoulder, and the voices in his head reasonably could be, there's no way out of this. This is hopeless. I'm a failure, perhaps. Not only did I fail myself, I failed my wife at this time of her life too, and my kids and anybody else who's come on this project. I can imagine it's reasonable for anybody to feel that way. So I check in with him and I said, hey, so Dad, what's going on with you? Where's your head at right now? And here's what he said to me. He said, Kevin, all I know how to do is keep showing up. Just showing up with attitude and ideas and effort. That's all I've ever known how to do. How do I get through this? I don't know. But tomorrow, I'm just going to show up, and I'm going to show up with attitude, effort, and ideas. And I think if I do that day after day after day, there's a path through this storm. And I thought, what a gift I think I just got right there. Now, I'll never go through what he's going through, God willing. But what he just said, I'm calling that a battle cry. I said, I think I'm going to take that and hold on to that, because odds are somewhere in my life, I'm going to be at a point where at least I feel this is overwhelming. I don't know how to get through this. Maybe I feel like I'm a failure. And I think that little maxim, that battle cry, that way of reframing things, or giving myself what's the next step I can take, is something that is important. And I just want to, this is sort of the spirit of what I want to do today, is just to offer you guys a splinter in your brain, just to tune you in to how important this is. Because once you see this, you're going to notice it everywhere, and you're going to see the power of not only crystallizing the battle cry, but sharing them with people who are at similar places to us. So let's demonstrate this. I want to get into your life for just a second, okay? Because of the size of the group, we're going to manage this a little bit, but I want everybody on this call to think about this. Think about the hardest thing you've ever gone through successfully, okay, that you have achieved or endured, that it was a grind or a suck, or it was tough, but by God, I pulled it off, or I endured it. It could have been, I got through the divorce, I got through in vitro, or I ran a marathon, or I endured that time working for a toxic boss, or the season where we had a challenge in a relationship, or getting out of debt. Whatever it is for you, I want you to lock that in your head, okay? All right, so you got that. Now here's where we're going to invite some people to participate for a second. In chat, okay, and you know where chat is. It's right down there at the bottom, okay? In chat, I want everybody to think about, during the hardest moment of that challenge, of your little storm that you went through, I want to put you back in the toughest day, when you were on the canvas, when you were just at rock bottom, and it was the darkest day that eventually you got out of. But I want you to be back at the toughest point of that whole journey. What one word captures how you felt. Okay. So go ahead and just enter that in. And I want you guys to take a peek at the chat, what's scrolling up here. Okay. We're going to have a lot of inputs here, but see if you recognize any of these. Have you ever been there? Man, devastated, hurt, failure, defeated, discouraged, unloved, hopeless, overwhelmed. Thank you guys for doing this. Despair. I don't know what journey you're on. I don't know what storm you went through, but by God, I can relate to feeling that way somewhere in my story. Now, I'm going to thank you for inputting that. I'm going to take us to kind of, so what do we take from that? What's the big takeaway here? If I can forward that. Here's what we know, okay? Life is about storms. Everybody goes through storms. They might be small, they might be large. They might even be positive storms. Hey, having a kid, having toddlers can be a bit of a storm. But everybody's got them. They're different, but there's a universal thing. And the universal thing is when the struggle gets real, when there's challenge in this thing, we go internal, okay? The scene of the crime, the battlefield is in the mind. Even if it's a physical struggle, the battlefield is up here. And what we say to ourselves matters, man. If we've learned anything in cognitive behavioral therapy or in sports psychology or just being a human, we know that how we talk to ourselves in those moments of challenge, they matter because they can either reinforce or put us on a different trajectory depending on how we navigate that. And if it helped you, somehow you got off the canvas in your journey, somehow you came off rock bottom, and you took another step. There was another day. In the marathon, maybe you passed the next person. You kept moving. And eventually you endured or you succeeded. So somehow you were able to confront, sort of overwhelm any negative voices that you had going on in your head. And if you pulled that off, maybe somebody else who's on a different journey, but experiences something similar to what you experienced, hopeless, defeated, overwhelmed, maybe that little crystal that you've got can be offered to somebody else. Hey, I've never gone through exactly what you're going through, but man, I've heard that in my head. This helped me. And a battle cry is just that simple. Now, here's what we're going to do real quickly, because I want to let you guys contribute to the community here. There are storms of life, but not everybody's at the same phase of the storm. So we're going to talk about the phases, and each phase has sort of unique voices that show up in that storm. And how you respond to those voices oftentimes is what I call a battle cry. Okay, so we're going to just explore what the phases look like, and here's what they are. Okay, there's what I call presilience. There's before the suck happens, but man, it's coming. You know, you're bracing for something. How do the great ones kind of get their head right to prepare for that? Because the conversation in here is already starting. Then the winds come howling, man. When the storm arrives, when the challenge shows up, when you're running the marathon or you're dealing with teenage kids or whatever, or you're in a pandemic, for crying out loud, the conversation's still going up here. So you're in the storm, and then there are times that we're coming out of the storm, and we've got to make sense of this. And sometimes we come out stronger, we've had a victory, or sometimes we come out broken, and we need to make sense of this. So that's what the phases we're going to go through. We're going to walk through them one at a time. But on the piece of paper in front of you, let's make this real for you. We're wasting our time if this is not sort of laid over your life. Now, you're not going to share this with anybody, but just shine a light on it, man. What is a storm in your life? You probably got multiple storms. Oh, I'm sheltered in place, but man, I'm also trying to keep my business alive, or I've got this challenging relationship going on, and I don't like how I look because I haven't been working out like I have. I've just got tension. And usually you know a storm based on how you kind of describe it. Well, I'm getting ready to do this. I'm going through this thing. Hey, here's something I'm dealing with or struggling with. Maybe even in my gut, I just kind of know I keep avoiding this thing that I say I'm committed to. Usually when we're in a storm, there's emotions that pop up, just like you guys listed. You feel it in the pit of your stomach that, oh man, this is the struggle is real here. So just capture that. What's the storm in my life right now, or at least one of them? And what phase am I kind of in? Because it matters. So let's walk through these, okay? Let's talk about the presilience. So I'm getting ready to do something, and it might be good stuff or bad stuff, a new job. We're moving. This is exciting, but oh man, I'm already in my head about this thing. Am I going to be good enough? Can I pull this off? Maybe it is tragic. Maybe there's a divorce or chemo or debt or something you're working way out of. Lord knows we got a lot of military folks on this call. You know, when you're getting ready for a deployment, there's a lot going on as far as how I prepare my head personally, professionally for success here. I've got to make cold calls. Ugh, I dread this. I'm even getting feedback. So these are the types of storms. The suck is coming. What do I do? And let's talk about the voices, okay? Now, we're about to do a poll in a second as to whether this stuff seems familiar. But before the storm, there usually is some themes. Man, this is going to suck. I don't want to do this. I know I need to work out. I need to get off my butt, but the bed's so warm, right? I don't know if I can do this. So insecurity, fears, anxiety shows up. But the language is the language. We literally have conversations with ourselves. So take a look at this list. Do you recognize any of these? Have you, in some storms in your life, gone, yep, man, I've battled with that voice? So Daryl's going to actually pull up basically this list. And all you're going to do is you're going to click, you can click all of them if you want, but you're going to click on the ones that you've battled with in the past. So Daryl, are we able to throw the poll up? There it is.
Yes, Kevin's launched.
There you go. So just click through the ones that you go, been there, battle it. That's so me. And then submit. Let's see how human and universal this is. How cool is this? If your storm right now is kind of the coronavirus, everybody, every group I've talked to, all the data I've collected, you are not alone. People go, I feel overwhelmed. I'm afraid. I don't know who to believe. I don't know what to do. So Daryl, let's go ahead and close that out. But I think the point here is everybody got the voices. And if you don't attend to those, if you don't have a good comeback, it's going to affect your results, your response, your success. So let's talk about battle cries or examples of battle cries. There's a million of these, but here's what they are. And I want you to just, as we're going through these for the rest of this session, I want you to start thinking of, well, I do have one for this, right? I do kind of have one of these in my hip pocket.
Kevin, would you like us to show the results?
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. Show the results. I was seeing them, but you guys weren't. So thank you for sharing. Look at this. I'm afraid and I'm not sure how to get through this. Those are the top two, tied for 61%. I don't have the energy. The data right now I've shown in the first 2 weeks of coronavirus, people were saying scared, anxious, terrified, and now it's more overwhelmed, exhausted. It's sort of pivoting that way. All right, so we'll shut those down. Thank you. So here's examples of before the storm kind of battle cries. Sometimes they show up, and you collect them. People say things, it's stuff passed down from your parents, it's things you've crystallized over time. Maybe it's something you've read. One of mine is a stupid Post-it, because a battle I fight, and I'm sure I'm not alone here, is, I need to work out, but I don't feel like it. This is going to suck. It's too comfortable where I'm at to do that. I know I need to, but I don't want to. That's the voice that sometimes wins out, right? And then I ran across this quote in a book, and I made this stupid Post-it, and I hate this Post-it, but I have this Post-it because it's a slap in the face for me. And here's what it says. If you don't like what you see, do the work or shut up and accept you want it like this. Now, that's a long battle cry, but that one, I hate it, but it overwhelms the it's comfortable, so just blow it off voice. Brene Brown, if anybody is a master of just vulnerability and going, man, here's what I struggle with, insecurity and all, she talks about the voices all the time. She says, when I'm getting ready to get tough feedback, I will literally say this to myself to shut up that voice of insecurity. She will say, I am strong enough to hear this. And this is the path to mastery. If I want to get better, I've got to take this feedback as a gift, even if it comes from them. So her battle cry is just, I'm strong enough to hear this. This is the path to mastery. Now, the beauty of that is when I read it in Brene Brown's book, I went, ooh, I'm going to steal that one and hold on to that too. Because sometimes my ego gets in the way. Here's another one, Maximus. I love this. If you remember the movie Gladiator, Army general that gets sold into slavery, he finds himself just another gladiator in the arena with a bunch of other first timers. And the voice in their head is, I'm going to die. There's no way out of this. I've got to protect myself. He knew that's what was going on inside everybody's head. So he said this, whatever comes at us out of these gates. Now that's a pre-storm comment right there. We don't know what's coming yet, but whatever it is, if we stay together, we survive. He said, just remember this, if you use this to shut up the other voices, you got a chance of success. Because you're going to want to run off by yourself. Dumb. Use this. And then when the gates did come up and all hell broke loose, all he had to do was say, basically, remember that battle cry I gave you? Activate it, cling to it, because stuff's swirling all around him. And he just says, stay together, stay together, stay together. I like this because even right now, in this uncertain time, this scary time, a lot is at risk here. We're socially distanced, but really the goal is physical distance, but we need to stay socially connected, right? And the goal, my focus needs to be stop getting focused on all the external stuff. We as a family, no matter what happens, what phase 2 looks like, if we stay connected emotionally, interpersonally, we survive as a family. Because otherwise we can stay socially distanced, but the family can fall apart. So it's not a bad battle cry in this environment too, for whatever is about to happen. But eventually in life, the gates do come up. The storm does arrive and the winds start howling and the suck shows up. And here we go. And usually the voices sound like this. We tend to whisper certain things into our ears to ourselves. This might look real familiar. Okay, that when it gets just tiring, you're draining, you're halfway through the marathon, halfway through the divorce, halfway through in vitro, halfway through that time with the toxic boss, or going through grad school, whatever the storm is, some of these can pop up. And again, if not attended to, the consequences can be dire. Get this. I was at the Pentagon speaking to a good friend of mine who runs the Air Force's program for violence prevention, for crying out loud. Talk about a tough job jar. And she said, Kevin, think about this. Last year, 100% of the people who committed suicide were alone when they did it. 100%. Now, they may have just been with another wingman or family member moments before, but when they actually did the thing, they were alone. And I thought a lot about that. And I thought, you know, I don't think they were. They were just in the room with that voice. And the voice that basically was saying, it's hopeless. There's no other alternative. Tomorrow will not be any better than today, and today's unbearable. And sometimes the voice is saying, and they'd be better off without you. If those voices are not confronted with something, they can win out. Same thing with all these other things. Yeah, I'm tired, but I got to keep moving on. I'm halfway through the marathon. I can't even think about the finish line, but I can catch that guy. That at least gives me a counter to give up now. This just isn't your day. And there are usually themes here as well. This sucks, man. It hurts. It's not working. So what do I do? So here are some of the battle cries that we see in the storm. This first one, this is the mother of all battle cries because, man, it keeps showing up. You'll hear it over and over and over again in different versions. Marcus Aurelius, 2,000 years ago, the greatest leader of Roman emperor and leader of the Stoic mindset. His version of this was, you can't control everything, but you can control how you respond. Alcoholics Anonymous, they say it as the serenity prayer. Help me distinguish between what I can control and what I can't, and the knowledge to know the difference. Stephen Covey says there's the circle of concern and the circle of influence. And my mom basically is using the same battle cry, but hers sounds like this: it is what it is. And all that means is that she is now watching my dad in a memory care facility that she can't even get to anymore. This man, her love of her life for 63 years of marriage, she's gotten to the point where she says, it's exhausting to try and control things that are outside of my control. I can only control so much. And there are certain things I've just got in her mind. She says, to hand to God. Control what you can control is the number one battle cry that people appreciate, cling to, offer to each other, to say, I haven't been on your journey, but man, this has helped me. Otherwise, it can be overwhelming. Here's another one. Win. What's important now is just a simple battle cry to say, you can get overwhelmed by looking all the way down, but can you shorten the path? Can you clear the deck and go, man, I just need to focus on this. In boot camp, it was, if I can just make it to the next meal, or if I can make it through this round of chemo, then there's another one, but I can't think of the second one. It's this one. Failure is not an option. It's just a battle cry that says there are certain non-negotiables. And I've clarified that. So if my brain starts chirping about take it off the table, that's already done. I don't even need to battle that. So often here in the storms that people turn to their faith, which again is an element of, I can only control so much. So there's somebody else, there's another entity that I can lay it at the cross, or I can hand it over. And faith becomes, there's battle cries often take the form of quotes or affirmations or verses. And then the best battle cry I ever heard came from a lady named Major Sue Ellen White. I'm at Davis-Monthan Air Force Base in Arizona, and I step off the stage. And I talked about this in the different phases of the storm. It was just sort of exploring it. And she came up to me and she said, thank you, first of all, for just acknowledging not everybody is just in the resilience phase, that people are in different phases. And she said, that's important because I don't think I ever get out of the storm. And I said, tell me more about that. Well, it turns out a year before I'm having this conversation, her husband, Chase, Air Force reservist, but also a U.S. Marshal. Sue Ellen is an Air Force major. Her husband's U.S. Marshal. They kiss each other goodbye on a Thursday morning, get the kids off to school. She goes to work. By Thursday night, her husband's dead. He served some papers as a U.S. Marshal. Guy comes out with guns blazing, and he's dead, leaving her destroyed, heartbroken. 4 kids lost their dad. She said, this is a storm. The storm has not subsided. I can't even imagine a day where it subsides. And she said, and I'll be honest with you. Right now, sometimes the voice in my head is, at night, I'd be okay if I didn't wake up tomorrow morning. The pain is just too bad. And I said, but Sue Ellen, you do get up the next morning. You have taken the next step. You do breathe in and out, and your kids are getting off to school. It's as hard as it is. Is there anything that has given you a little bit of comfort or direction or strength in this? And she says, people are always offering stuff and tips, but hey, they don't know. My journey is my journey, just like everybody's is. But she said, I did run across a quote in a book that I put on a Post-it on my refrigerator. Matter of fact, it's the only Post-it on my refrigerator. And I'm thinking, this is a battle cry coming, right? And here's what it said. Choose life, not death. Do not lose what you have to what you have lost. She said, for some reason, that hits me. Because she's saying, this guy took enough from our family. He stole so much from our family. And it just made me realize the more I focus on him and what he took and how I want to get revenge and all that, as much as I pour energy into that, he's stealing even more from my family. This reminded me, I got a choice as far as where I'm directing that energy. And today I choose, it is not you, it is them. The idea of choice, control what you can control, your choice is in bounds. And to crystallize that in whatever form, be it a quote or a Bible verse or a mantra, it's just powerful. So if we do get out of the storm though, there are voices that change a little bit to make sense of what just happened, especially if there's been failure or heartbreak. So sometimes the voices sound like this, I'm defined by this. I'm damaged. Maybe I'm a failure. I got negative feedback and I process that as I'm not good enough. Sometimes after the storm, we look back and go, I should have done this, or I should be doing what they're doing. I look at other people in the coronavirus here. I should be doing more. I heard a guy today, just this morning, I heard him say something that I said, that's not a bad battle cry right there. A guy named Jeff Nischwitz. He's a speaker and an author out of Florida. And he said, we got to stop shoulding on ourselves. I said, shoulding. I should do this. I should have done that. Is just give yourself some grace. There's a place that battle cry offers grace. The last one is an important point in that in moments of success, we come out successful. Sometimes in order to be our best possible selves, the people we're trying to be, maybe the dysfunctional voice is cockiness. I did it myself. And we need to confront that and pull ourselves back to a position of humility. So sometimes here's some examples of after the storm battle cries. You come out of that, people can feel broken. They can feel damaged. This is and this is in the area of what's called post-traumatic growth research, working with wounded warriors and trauma survivors. Is one battle cry a lot of times is, hey, that sucked what happened. But if you can survive that, don't ignore the strength that you must have. Or somebody who has failed or feels like they've failed. Hey, and a failure is an event, not an identity. That's a battle cry. Matter of fact, the failure may have been a gift because it gives you perspective only possible if you stumbled the way you stumble. A lot of people in their battle cries, there's sort of a theme or a spirit, which is just with this phrase, with this motto, with this verse, it reminds you are enough. People are hungry to hear that and need it to be loud enough to overwhelm the voice that's saying, yeah, you're not good enough, especially after what just happened. And I like this battle cry. I read this one. Never high five yourself. That's just sort of a life hack right there. You know what? If something is worthy of high fiving, you probably didn't pull it off yourself. So you, especially as a leader, need to hunt for people to give some credit to. These are just after the battle high fives. So here's what I want to do. We're going back to chat. Okay. Now that we've sort of explored this, maybe you've thought a little bit about it. We got over 400 people. Not everybody's got to have one. Don't feel bad if you go, well, I don't have one crystallized. I bet you do, especially when you start seeing them. But let's go into chat. Do you have a battle cry that has served to guide you, comfort, and inspire or strengthen you over your life? Or maybe it's something I notice I keep telling my kids, or it's that piece of wisdom that was offered by a mentor or a parent or a coach. Let's go to chat and just look at this, because what's coming on, and Daryl, we'll have the opportunity to save this chat list.
Yes, that's right,
Kevin. And I want to package this and then offer it back with the slides to people and go, hey, this is a great constellation collection of battle cries.
Sounds good, Kevin. We can do that.
Yeah. Let go and let God. This too shall pass. Pain is temporary. Fix bayonets. That's a call to action. If you think it's time to sit back, and you have the ability, just so you know, to if they're flying by so fast, you can scroll back up, you can back up a little bit. If I cannot control it or change it, then don't stress. I'm going to throw out a couple more that just getting ready for this. I just threw on the board this morning. Here's one. Win the game before the first play. You have the ability to do that by practice, deliberate practice. You can do it so well, you win the game before the first play. Some of them require a story. You need to understand the story in order to understand why this phrase is so powerful. For example, sprint to the mailbox. If we have time, I can tell you about that. Leave it at the cross. Keep chopping wood. Choose bitter or better. When you get your butt handed to you, you got that choice. Brene Brown said in one of her books, this is her motto for her family: we do hard things. It's just bring it on. If the storm is coming, we kind of go, I'll take it. Live the glossy. John Heller, you'll recognize that one. We're going to love our way through this. My wife and I, when we were going through a tough patch with one of our teenage daughters, we said, you know what? I don't know how to do this, but we're going to love our way through it. We're not going to discipline out of control or out of anger, and we're going to love our way through this. Don't pick up the arrow. If you've been insulted by somebody, it's like they threw an arrow at you and it landed at your feet. If you keep dwelling on that, you're picking up the arrow and you're stabbing yourself. If you're familiar with Carol Dweck, growth mindset, the power of the word yet cannot be understated. When you or your kids or your friends say, I can't do it. Well, not yet. That word shifts everything. The ball is now back in your court. You have power and control over that. So these are just some examples. I love the fact you guys threw out, I think, 113 of these. This won't be forever. This too shall pass. My gosh, I start to notice some themes here. Failure isn't fatal. Success isn't final. It's the courage that counts. These are things that apparently have reminded us to confront the voice that's in our head. So because there's going to be a breakout room after this session, okay? I want to just prompt you for this. You're going to have like an icebreaker question. Daryl confirmed that that's going to be the case. You'll go to groups, maybe of 6, if you want to hang around, and they'll offer an icebreaker question just to get to know you. If you're looking for another topic to talk about, this is one. Hey, do you have a battle cry that you notice you keep going back to these days? And the power, the real power comes from, is there a quick story as to why that matters to you? Because if I were to just say to you, hey, here's one that I really like, and it's keep showing up. If you don't know the story of my dad and what he was going through at that moment, it sounds like, well, keep on trucking. No, man, the story is where the secret sauce is. And if you share the story about why this phrase matters to you, what it got you through, maybe even what voice it helped you confront, there can be a lot of power to that. So here's some of the, if you were, when we push this out, but if you're to go back through this list, and I bet if you read some other people's, you go, oh, that reminds me of this other one that I really like. You'll see themes. Like I said before, the first theme is control what you can control. Another one is just choice. If you've ever read Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning, I mean, one of the most powerful insights there is you have a choice between stimulus and response. There is a choice, even when everything else is stripped away. You can choose bitter. You can choose better. You can choose how you respond. You can choose in this environment what you put into your body, what you put into your mind by watching TV, how you spend your time. You got a choice, even as chaotic as the environment is. One of the themes is, if you remind yourself that this is temporary, you can endure it. That is something that gets people through SEAL training, and it gets people through other tough storms in their life. Very different experiences, but the same battle cry. Just take the next small step. That phrase is offered in a million different ways, but usually that's a theme. If you think you're alone, you're wrong. Even if, if faith is important to you, that you're not left alone by God, or that, you're spiritually connected to others. If nothing else, you are enough. And one of the big ones, man, a lot of people say, I get a lot of fuel if I'm just reminded. Prove them wrong. You've got strength enough to prove them wrong. That is a fuel that will make people get off their butts or confront sort of the inner demons. So as we kind of wrap things up here, the goal is we want to live as our best possible selves. Not that we're doing a bad job, but we know in our gut, I want to be better than what I'm bringing right now. or as these challenges are showing up, there's a certain way I want to try and respond to challenges like this. And I'm going to give myself grace. I'm not going to get it right all the time, but that's what battle cries do. They tap us on the shoulder. They slap us in the face. They kick us in the rear. They maybe clear a path ahead of us. And they give us a script to confront the voices, maybe even something to practice. A lady named Mary Gentile has a program called Giving Voice to Values. And she said that to practice and rehearse what you would say in the tough conversations. That's powerful because it builds competence and confidence in responding to those voices. And the last thing is the power of these, the beauty of these, the reasons they show up on things like this is they can be collected from other people, from other people's examples. They can be collected from books and movies and experience, but they can also be shared. And the whole point is we have these common voices that we run across in different types of storms in our life. And for me to go, hey, Amy Lee, I don't know what you're going through right now, but man, I've been there. I've felt that way in a moment in my life too. And I got to tell you, this little nugget here, this helped me reframe how I showed up in that moment. This may be useful to you, and you can hand that out. And conversely, other people have possibly been experiencing what you're battling right now, and maybe they got a way to reframe it and offer it too. That's the idea here. And if you've got the time, the real power comes from understanding the story behind why that matters to them. And that's what gives you the full, that's what hooks it into your mind and into your behavior. So as we leave, here's what I can tell you. At least in some moments, when you feel overwhelmed, when you feel like, I don't know if there's a path, I've learned from one guy, there probably is. And you only fail if you stop showing up. So you keep showing up, no matter what the storm looks like. Attitude, effort, and ideas, maybe a path will show up. So Daryl, I want to just sort of offer that up. We can open it up for question and answer, explore however you want.
Yeah, let's do that, Kevin. Let's open up to questions. And the way we'll do this, since we've got a large group, is let's do the questions through chat. So if you have questions for Kevin, if you could start entering your questions in chat, then we will get to them as people enter them. Anything for Kevin? Kevin, I'll ask one to kind of kick things off. And you talked about the different phases of the storm. And, when you get through the storm, and you don't feel like you're through the storm. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're in it, man. I don't know if the storm ends. Yeah. Sometimes a battle cry can challenge whether you're on the right path. In the storm, that's not a bad time to embrace or reconnect with your why. Is this a fight worth fighting? Maybe challenge some of the voices may be, I'm doing this alone. Maybe I don't have to do this alone. My wife and I, here's a battle cry that showed up with us both at a time. We'd moved to a new city. We're in Charlotte now. At a time when we're like, I just don't feel connected, in our neighborhood or whatever. And our phone's not ringing and I don't know what the deal is. And our battle cry was, you know what? We need to build our tribe. Build our tribe. Nobody else is going to build it for us. We build our tribe. If our phone's not ringing, we pick up the phone. We build our tribe. So it's because otherwise nothing changes and we stay in that storm. Daryl, I would say one thing to do is the storm I'm in, if you're the one you described, I'm in it. Is there anybody else who's been in a similar storm or maybe been thinking the same thing that has found their way through, has succeeded? Here's to shift context a little bit. If I'm a new salesperson And the voice in my head is like, I just don't think I can do this. I mean, I hate cold calling. I suck at it. All I get is no's. This is just, I'm a failure at it. If that's where you're at, there's value in going, what do the great ones say to themselves when they're getting ready to do cold calls? Because it may reframe everything. A guy named Zig Ziglar, who was one of the greatest motivational speakers and salespeople, one phrase he had was, stop selling and start helping. It's just a simple battle cry, but the way you frame your interaction, I'm calling to help. That's where my heart's at. I need to do that. Otherwise, I'm in desperation mode or I'm in salesperson mode. And heck, if it worked for Zig Ziglar, that's not a bad thing to maybe adopt. So to look for people who have weathered that storm, Lord knows there's a lot of military spouses who are looking at their spouse going off on their first deployment. And they're going, I don't know how to do this. I'm not as strong as all these other people I'm looking around seeing. I don't think I can do this. And God, I've got a 1-year-old kid on top of this. There's no path through this storm. Man, it's helpful to talk to another military spouse who's maybe gone through 3 or 4 of these. They can say, sweetie, I've been exactly where you are. I know what it's like, how scary that is. But here's what I've learned. I say this to myself. It's only one of everything. It's only one birthday. It's one Christmas. And once you've gone through it, you check it off. Just something like that. The wisdom of somebody who's been through the storm, it's a gift that they can pass down. And you can learn from them instead of having to go through it yourself.